Chapter 3 Field Processing Procedures. Chapter 3 Field Reporting Procedures and Forms. Inspection Reports. Inspection reports are usually generated with field operating practice inspector laptop computer using the form FRA F6180.96 or the 96 report from now on. An inspector should be using the form to document both the compliance and non-compliance observed with the disseminating these inspection reports. Inspectors must cognizant that they have two specific versions produced. The FRA copy of the form, the FRA 618.96, reviews in blank of the FRA copy, the railroad company, the copy of the FRA Form 96, railroad company copy. Inspectors should be aware the FRA copy may contain information regarding the file numbers and source codes. They should not be provided to anyone outside of the other agency, outside of our agency. Consequently, the FRA copy should not be included in the violation package completely. Completion of an inspection report. Adequate information the inspector expected to provide with the railroad inspection report if the fully reflects on the inspection findings. The inspection report must provide enough information to identify the precise details of compliance or non-compliance. This will allow the railroad to provide with the feedback of the person involved with the inspection findings and the accurate inspection, and to have the correct the non-compliance that the inspector found during the inspection. Example: inspector's report for the merely indicates that the certification card was inspected and unacceptable, and regardless if the inspector noted any deficiencies without enough information, the railroad manager receiving the report cannot provide feedback. The employee involved in taking the action to correct any compliance comments to the railroad on the date I reviewed the engineer's certification card of the locomotive of the engineer Larry Smith, who was operating locomotive NEBR 1236 at 12:30 p.m. near track 4024. Inspector's reporting guidelines: when possible, the inspector's report should be completed with provided with the railroad on the same day of the inspection is performed. When it's not possible to provide with the railroad with the inspection report same day as the inspection report should be sent to the railroad in a timely fashion. And if an inspector cannot provide a completed inspection report to the railroad manager immediately following the inspection, and the inspector should provide an oral notification of an inspector findings either verbally or via the telephone. The oral notification should be filed with the required 96 report as soon as practical. Creating an additional inspection report is on the same day. An additional 96 report will be provided during the field inspections whenever the OP and operating practice inspector crosses the different country and county, unless performing the train rate inspection, crosses a different state, does an inspection of different railroad or railroad employee with a different railroad performing duties on the host of the railroad being inspected. A copy of the report will be provided with the host of the railroad. Courtesy of the cross of this is in different railroad or division. Note that does not apply to the different railroad subdivision. Has a need of for additional activity codes that does not accounted by the inspector prior to the 96 report. Inspection point. The inspector should always provide details of the location, inspection, west yard, headquarters, on board, 7123 west, etc. Inspection for the inspector office should not be any different. Should be properly indicated with the report. Inspection for the FRA office from the FRA office desk. Sometimes the operational practice inspector will regenerate the inspection report at the office location after reviewing the railroad data, such as the operational testing data, accident report, and injury claim report, railroad radiotape, audio disc files, and other documented data for the inspection to place. The FRA's office of the home FRA office. The FRA should indicate the report in the location field with the FRA office. Remedial action. Place reference of remedial action guidelines, Chapter 3 of the General Form Manual for the Operational Practice Inspector. Checking for the remedial action box of the form FRA 96. The mandatory for the inspector will civil penalty action for the violation recommended. Chapter 3 of the General Manual. Reporting for the remedial action provides with the more information on when they use the remedial action process. Checking the operational specialist. If you have any questions regarding when the remedial action process, the remote recommended is recommended a violation. Railroads can only be required to submit a remedial action report for three types of violation: of physical defects, record keeping report violations, and file violations. Example of an inappropriate remedial action process is after citing a violation of the railroad's failure to follow the efficient program completing with the required number of the efficiency test. The railroad cannot go back in time and do an efficiency test that should have done already. However, if the violations were taken to be for a failure, the report require the efficiency test. The remedial action process is possibly because the railroad can file a late report or create a record of the efficiency test that was actually done earlier. This shows the remedial action inspection report of the Department of Transportation, Federal Railroad and Administration with the violations marked yes, and the remedial action is marked or if required. Also, take the remedial action form. Your name, address should be placed here. The RR fills out this portion. The railroad required to complete it and return it to the inspectors. Example: the violation of railroad failures to return remedial action. 96 report. 96 reports recorded the SOFA observation inspection report. See the also chapter 19 for this manual. The record of the SOFA recommendation is a speed column that has been discontinued. All deficiencies should record on the inspection report and clearly explain the deficiency of the narrative without referencing the SOFA recommendations. Inspection report: best practice inspectors were guided to analyze the data in the territories in accordance with the regional guidance for the National Inspector Plan. Requirements: conduct field observation of the crew, determining whether they are complying with the FRA regulations. Information includes the following: Part 225 accident incident data, including non-reportable ownable incidents. Part 217 operating testing data reviews, and they should be conducted with a routine basis for each of the railroad in an inspector territory track for such a manner that the reviews can be explained with the inspector supervisor or constantly changing inspection that is developed using available data noted on herein. The plan will be used to guide the inspector's time and resources regarding his or her inspection activities. Reference chapter 4 and 18. Use the first person form of the FRA 96 report. Write clearly accurate or use the RSIPC spell check function on the form. The FRA 96 report. Proofread the inspection report before submitting it to the railroad. Within your inspection report, tell the story: who, what, when, where, and why. Where, and why. There should be enough information to report the railroad manager can provide with the feedback and to those involved. Use the inspector report to document the efforts and to obtain the record to discuss compliance with the railroad managers. Use the re-inspection files forms numbers currently when using the inspection reports to document the necessary required to follow up the inspections. Inspection reports should be concise but include enough detail to regulate in the understanding what you did and what to take the follow-up action if necessary. Inspection reports must be factual in nature. Submit your inspection report to the railroad in a timely manner on the same day as the inspection is possible. Use the photograph support conditions noted in your inspection report when practical. Photographs should include in your inspection report at the time of your inspection reports are provided with the railroad manager if possible. On your inspection report, document the positive results in addition with the non-compliant results. Informate the railroad of the areas in which you have observed the compliance with the assisting inspectors severe of the influence. Each of the line and description should include the clear understanding whether the line item in the violation noted, the inspection noted, the no exception noted. Using the term civil penalty recommended and acceptable, but the terms violation taken and exception taken, no exception taken, should be avoided. Nevertheless, inspectors should use the style agreed upon the recommended with the regional operational practice specialists. Violations: general guidance instruction of all the violation reports. Violation reports are basic and vital link of the FRA's Office of Safety Assurance and Compliance with the FRA Office of the Chief of the Council. It is thorough the exchange of information and documentation incident of noncompliance with the federal safety regulations of are ultimately brought with the railroad attention in the form of the civil penalty process. Each of the violation report numbered for the state inspector consecutive report with the consequently numbered the report remain into the writer throughout the term of the employment with the FRA number that is unaffected with the visual and calendar year. The inspector must clear the site of the regulation alleged of the violated with the first sentence of the violation narrative. The violation narrative should include the railroad's response and corrective action when notified with the violation. The narrative should include any of the defensive disagreement with the railroad provided with the inspector of the violation, include any of the potential safety risk for previous noncompliance that is relevant. Inspector that should the person violation reports write clearly and accurately. Clear the state of the manager was notified with the violations cited as well as time and date of the manager. It was noted of the recipients for signatures of the violated provided with the railroad as soon as practical. Prompt notification of violations. When inspectors determine the violation federal safety regulations statutes has occurred, the violation must not be reported to the violator, his or her appropriate representative. If the violation presents immediate safety risk, the inspector must immediately make such a notification, not wait until the end of the day, and must not leave the area until the unsafe condition has been resolved. The violation must be reported orally, and serving the copy of the completed 96 report of the proper railroad representative when practical. The inspector should obtain the signature of the railroad officials who served in the completed 96 report. Violation of the best practice. Upon receipt of the examination of the violation report package, i.e. the violation report, including its attachment, the FRA Office of the Chief of the Council, the comprehensive review of the report is conducted. During the process, special attention is given to the availability of sufficient evidence being supported to support the successful prosecution of civil penalties against the railroad railroad to the person alleged to have been committed with the violation. When attaching the evidence completed with the violation report, the inspector must provide a clear explanation of each attachment relevant to the act violation as alleged of the form submitting the violation with its attachment that do not have explanations of the relevance of the violation alleged in the violation report from the could result in violation reporting being a return of the inspector clarification will quote the text of the regulation of the railroad reference the narrative of the violation of the report that is alleged to have violated. Each of the element violation must be supported by the usable evidence of reference to the the RCC and RRS guidance memo. Examination by the railroad. Since all material submitted within the violation report is available for the examination by the railroad, the inspector uses the discretion in preparing the accompanying deep materials. The inspector must not unnecessary strong language state unfounded opinions, express disparaging remarks, and etc. Violations for the complaint. If the violation report for the result from the complaint do not include the complaint's name and the identified with the complaint jobs description, work errors must not be revealed and implied anywhere in the violation report package. The report must never contain a statement indicating the violation resolved from the complaint investigation. Refer to the witness as a complaint. When the violation reported the result of the complaint investigation, the assigned control and complaint file number must not be referenced to the violation report form, the attached inspection of the interview reports, and other supporting documentation that is submitted. Inspectors should be aware of the FRA copy that may contain the information regarding the complaint, the file numbers, source codes, and should not include the violation package. Identification attachment exhibited and listed in support of material. Exhibit list should never be embedded into the narrative of the violation report. It should remain the separate document included with the violation report package. The exhibit list should be clearly identified with the violation exhibit list. At the top of the page, the violation report is specifically required, but the exhibit list is to be placed in the violation report itself. The inspector should write no applicable or non-applicable in the box including the exhibit list as separate documentation. Each of the attachment of the violation report, including the copy supporting document, must not include the means of identification number in the upper right corner. The identification is to helpful review the personnel will be useful in the reporting that inadvertently becomes separated during the process. Examples are stated. It is important to the chief officer to be able to understand whether the documents were obtained. For example, the accident report cause, and good to know how and where the documents were obtained, the date were obtained. They allows the chief counsel to distinguish the documents obtained at a later date and obtain the different source. All right. True representation of evidence submitted. The inspector must never tamper with the physical evidence prior to taking photographs to be later submitted with the part of the violation report package. Photographs must show the evidence as it was found by the inspector. The clarity of the photograph and sufficient additional property and proper evidence showing the physical condition may include the single signed witness statement, the railroad record, and do not mark the photographs as not altered. It will always. Do not mark photographs as not altered. It will always assume that they are not altered. Provide explanation for each piece of evidence, including photographs of relevancy. Violation report. The explanation included with the evidence itself and separate for the documentation. Accuracy completed with the violation report forms. Violation report forms must be performed in clear, concise manner. In the stating that on the facts of the pertaining to the violation, they must be also free of the spelling, grammatical errors, and all narrative information must be listed in chronological order. Statement of witness is in Chapter 20. Assemble the review and approval transmission on violation reports. The inspector is responsible for preparing electronic uploading with the original violation report package. The inspector will retain the only one electrical copy of the file. The original is the original provided with the regional operational practice specialist. Review the technical accuracy, proper grammar and completeness of the regional specialist is required to determine the consistency of the national enforcement policy. Once he or she believes that the violation reports package is technically correct, contains sufficient evidence to enable the successful prosecution of the region, generates the transmissional form of the F618072B. It is forwarded with the FRA office, the chief of the office to the council. The FRA database will be electronically populated, recording and archiving the violation until closed. The transmittal form F618072B is not sent to the railroad because, for example, it contains information whether the violation report arose from a complaint. All right. Violation forms used by the operation practice. When the operational operator practice discipline, there is separate forms of the preparation of the violation report. The RSIPC will guidance the inspector with the correct violation form. After the inspector downloads the inspection report containing the recommendation for the violation, these three forms the specific purpose for which they are explained in the following pages. The standard FRA's Form F618033, violation of hours and service law. The standard violation report is used in submitting the violation statutory requirement to federal hours and service laws (HSL) involving one or more employees involved in a single incident or access of service. Instruction completing the violation report package of the violation of the federal hours of service laws. Inspectors, the Form FRA 618033 Inspector Synopsis. From the Inspector Synopsis is required for the federal hours of service laws violation report package of the FRA Form 6180.33 does not contain the place of the form of the inspector to provide a narrative description of the circumstance involved with the excessive service. The synopsis must be concise with the end and factual, include the events contributing to the excessive service. Data must be specified as well as the time and the place where the duties periods began and ended. Any disciplinary between the railroad records and employee statements must be examined. The synopsis must include with the report of the excessive service F61803 hours of service report railroads was submitted by the railroad. In addition, with the record, the synopsis must include with the inspectors determining whether the employees involved with recovered and received a statutory off-duty period before and after excessive service. It should be also named that the employees involved with in the violation. Hours of duty and records. The inspectors must obtain a legal copy of the hours of the duty. The records related to the excessive service submitted with them in the violation report. The excessive service related to the off-duty copies of the hours and duties records preceding the following tours of the duties must also be submitted. If signed hours of duty from the employee involved that cannot be obtained, or if the signed time return obtained does not clearly support the violation, the inspector must obtain the adequate evidence that the violation occurred. In an interview of the employees and the manager, a violation report must accompany with the report's personal interviews with the witness statement, including the employees who formed the excessive service, any of the managers who authorized the excessive service, any other employee or supervisor who has pertinent information. Violations report should also include the railroad manager's exemption in excess service. Pertinent message of the instruction. A copy of any of the written message instruction concerning the excessive service should be included with the violation report if in hours of the service recorded but the relating of the violation appears to be inaccurate, falsified. The inspector must submit copies of the payroll data, train movement graph, and the train air brake test record, witness statement, and any other record of the substanding with the inaccuracy of falsification of record. The designated terminal when the excess of the service is related directly to the release of the period of less than 4 hours at the terminal. The violation report must be accompanied by the statement of the inspector provided with the information on whether the terminal is designated terminal, as defined in the hours service laws. Where the release periods are provided with the points other than the home and away from the home terminals, the report should indicate whether the statutory exceptions of the designated terminal requirements were satisfied. Statute of limitations for violation of hours of service law. To collect a civil penalty of the violation of hours of service law, a suit must be filed within 2 years after the date of the violation unless administrative notification, if even a demand of the letter of the office of the chief of the council has been made in this time. If administrative notification has been made within 2 years, then the suit must be filed within 5 years after the date of the violation. Instruction completion of the FRA Form 618033. The following instructions shall be strictly filed with the preparation issuance of the Form FRA 618033. Chapter of the violation for the inspector to select and enter the most appropriate statement for the following statement to describe the type of the federal hour service law violation. Continuous on duty excessive 12 hours. On duty broken service but more than 12 hours. Off duty for the duty for a period less than the required, including the requirements of 6 to 48 to 7 to 72. On the duty of the excess of 9 or 12 hours in the 24-hour period, more than 30 to 40 hours in the limbo time of the calendar month, and more than 276 hours of mandatory activity in the railroad in the calendar month. For the first 3 items making pertain to the excessive service performed to the employees, such as an engineman, trainman, yardman, holster, singleman. The fourth item relates to the excessive service performed by the employees, such as train dispatchers, operators, and the last 2 items are only related to the train employees. Example, continuous on duty excessive 12 hours. The violation report number. The violation report number is assigned to the inspector. The railroad entered the violation of the full corporate name. Example, the Big Red Railroad Company. Place, the city and the state of the inspector assigned to the duty location. Inspector of the headquarters of the field of the outfield form the 96 report. Example, Lincoln, Nebraska. Office of the railroad manager's name. The title entered in the item responsible for the geographical territory and an employee involved in the hour service law violation. Example, Johnny Railroader Division Superintendent. Date the name of which instrument complies with the FRA F618033, for example, the March 27, 2007. The train number, the full train number, the train symbol, the yard number, the other proper designation. The designation must show that the appears with the on the employee the records of the dispatcher, record of the train, of the movement of the train sheets, the hour service, the law violation involved. The dispatcher operated for the employee whom the train designates is not appropriate with another non-applicable with the failed out filed with the Form 96 report and the manual entry is allowed. Examples: CH at CK29, the engine number, the initial number of the designated locomotive of the train engine, air yard crew involved with excessive service. If the hour service law violation involved the dispatcher, operator, or other employee with the controlling locomotive, it's not appropriate but non-applicable. For example, the CNW 85050. 8550. Name inspector. The inspector's name is filed with the 618096 inspection report. Inspector's payroll ID number. The note field is filled with the 618096 inspector report. And from the city of the station for the state, or to be entered with the location where the train engine and the yard employees originally went on duty for the store of the duty for the Lincoln, Nebraska. To the city of station name of the state, or to be entered with the final destination or location where the train engine and the yard employees were intended to operate with during this tour of duty for the terms 10 to 11 may be in same location. For example, in Nebraska, Form 618096 report number date, the field of 96 inspection report with the report number, the date inspection line item number, the field with the 96 inspection report with the line item number that corresponds to the violation. The violation of Title 49 U.S. Standard Code section subsection will be filled with the field 96 inspection report. 15. Operating facility. When the violation is against the entirety of the railroad, enter the name of the address responsible party where the violation occurred. Violation against the railroad, enter the other type of the operation with the violation, the name of the facility where the violation occurred. 16. The division service in a unit, business unit, district, region, and other equivalent operating division of the violation occurred with the railroads, but no division service unit and show the appropriate designation and not applicable. 17. The name of the number of the track involved with the violation will be filed with the 96 inspection report. And 8018, name of address, employee, the name of the first initial, middle, and last name of the home address, and street address, city, state, and zip are to be entered for each of the employee from the violation report is submitted to the example. Michael M. Rouser, 1313 West 33rd Terrace, Lincoln, Nebraska 12345, zip code. Occupation, enter the occupation for each of the employee for which the violation is reported and being submitted. Example, engineer on the duty for the item of the form of the entry of the three separate lines of the information, place, date, and time of the day, duty of the employee from which the violation report being submitted does not use the ditto marks, place, enter the city, the station, the state of the location where the engine train and the engine, the dispatcher, operator, and other service employee originally when they were on duty with the tour of duty. The date, enter the month and the day and the year of the train, the engine, and the yard, the dispatcher, operator, other service employees originally went on duty of this tour for the store of the duty. Enter the time as in 6:30 a.m. The time and the engine dispatcher operated with the other covered service employees went on duty the tour of the duty. Military time may be used if this is the form of the time used with the railroad on the hours of the duty record. For example, Lincoln, Nebraska, January 6, 2010, 6:30 a.m. 221 off duty. The items of the form is called the entry of the three separate lines of the information placed at and time of the duty for each employee for which the violation report is being submitted. Do not use ditto marks. Place the answer of the city, the name of the station, the state of the location where the train, engine, yard, dispatcher, operator, other covered service employees while relieved on duty for this form tour of duty. The date, enter the month and day of the year with the train, engine, yard, dispatcher, operator, covered service employee while relieved of the duty of the tour of duty. Enter the time of the 6:30 p.m. of the train, engineering, and or yard service employees relieved of the duty of this tour. Military time may be used if that is the form time used by railroad of the hours duty record. For example, Lincoln, Nebraska, January 7, 2010, 200. Total time of duty. Enter the time total number of the hours of the minutes for the only duty tour of duty of each of the employee for which the violation report was submitted. Do not use ditto marks making indicated repetition of information. Use an apostrophe to mean hours and a quotation to mean marks to mean minutes. Example, 13 hours, 15 minutes. Total time of the duty. Enter the total numbers of the hours and the minutes and the employee was off duty with prior to commencing the tour of duty for each of the employee within the violation report is being submitted. Do not use ditto marks to indicate the repetition of the information used to add apostrophe for the hour and quotation mark for the minutes and to mean minutes. 20 hours, 35 minutes. Example. Note, when the violation involves an interim release period for the rest of any site or other of the designated term, the inspector must include the notation on the bottom of the front of the report that clearly explains all the aspects of the interim release. It includes the interim period of the release of the 4 or more hours rest of billings in Montana. Synopsis violation schemes per instruction page 3 to 8. 25 regular office dispatchers enter the assigned hours of the violation concerned with the dispatcher operator hours and for all the covered service employees leave with the blank. Example, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., 3 p.m. to 12 p.m., 1:59 p.m., 1:59 to 8 a.m. For the above identified with the assigned shift dispatching officer with the signal dispatcher operator performs covered with the service is dispatching services employed during each of the 3 shifts, each of the case with the large dispatch and centers the information shown above the block and confined with the specific dispatcher operated district, and that was involved with the hour service law violation. 26 cause of excessive service. The inspector must include which of the following causes with the applicable. The drop-down menu choice, the inspector will choose from a list cause of the excessive service filed with the extension cause of the excessive service options. Cause of excessive service options. Employee was permitted but required to remain continuously on duty for the period of the excessive provided with the statute. Employee was permitted but required to return to duty for the 12 hours of continuous service without at least 20 consecutive hours of duty. Employee was permitted but required to continue the duty without at least 8 consecutive hours of duty during the preceding of the 24 hours. Employee was permitted but required to continue the duty and program service in excess of the provided with the statute. Employee was permitted but required to perform mandatory activity for the railroad in excess of 276 hours in the calendar month. Employee was permitted but required to exceed 30 hours in the calendar month of the month, waiting for the dead-headed train transportation to point of final release and following the period of the 12 consecutive hours of duty. 7th, employee was allowed to required to remain on duty and continue on the duty without receiving the required off-duty period of the continuing hours of service law. In addition, with the applicable, one of the following must be added with the extension to one of the above clauses to fully explain the reason for the excessive service. Extension causes excessive service options. Due to the failure, consider the time of the duty release the period provided with the place as other in a designated terminal. Due to the failure, consider the time of the date duty, the time spent with the dead-headed transportation due to the duty assignment. Due to the failure, consider the time of the day release the period less than is prescribed. Due to the consider the time off duty, the time spent with the dead-headed transportation from a duty assignment for the point of the final release. Due to the failure, consider the time on duty, the time performing the service not required of the statute. Service commingled with the service covered with the statutes. Example: the employee was required to remain continuously on duty for the period of inaccess that provided with the statute. Due to the failure, is to consider as the time on duty any time spent performing the service not covered by the statute when service commingled with the service covered by this statute. For example, above examples combines the cause of excess service option 1, the extension of the excess service option 5, to fully describe the circumstance of the excessive service violation. A possible reason for this type of example would be the train engine and service employees have commingled due to the attendance of required rules in class. 27, inspector recommendations. Inspector recommendations correct the activities leading to the compliance. 28, signature of the inspector. Inspector's signature. Date of the inspector. The inspector is signed with the original copy to use the data selection feature of the type directly. 30, railroad notification is the name and the title of the railroad official who was notified of the violation and the date of the time the notification was made. Time, Eric Couch, Division Superintendent, date until March 27, 2010. Okay, 31. So, list of documents is attached to the exhibit that should not be embedded with the narrative of the violation. It should remain in a separate document included with the violation report package exhibited. It should clearly identify the violation exhibit list at the top of the page. The violation report specifically requires the exhibit list to be placed in the violation of the report itself. An inspector should write the non-applicable and not applicable in the box that contain the included the exhibit list as separate documentation, separate document. Arrangement of federal hours of service law violation report package. The report is to be reassembled in the inspector following the manner of the completed form of the FRA 61833, the violation of hours of service law. Exhibit limits to the court. Copy of the hours of duties and state or interviews with employees officials. Copy of the pertinent message instructions, substantial record, a list of the crews and the employees for the available for the relief services, the statement of the railroad official with the qualified employees who are available to relieve the employees who are performing excessive service. Copy of the report, railroad reports, excessive service form of the 6180.3 submitted with the original copy that the inspector signed with completed with the FRA 61896 of the 96 inspection report. Any other documentation supporting the violation. Note that the memorandum of the transmittal of the regional office, the office chief of the counsel of the FRA 618072B is not an attachment part of the violation report package. The FRA Form 61803, the hours of service report railroads for the form is used to the railroad to report the instance of excessive hours for the service in accordance with the Title 49 Code for Regulations, Section 22819. The inspector should contact the FRA hours of service specialist conform. The form was submitted in request of the copy of the form. The feature of the reference to the railroad with the electronic hours of the service AOHS recording system was allowed and per the Title 49 22819 to attach to 6183 directly to the individual of the hours of service record associated with the excessive service. In the case of the inspector, will be able to print the 61803 directly with the record electronics and the hours of service record keeping system. The Title 49 CFR 228-219 also allows submission of the F61803 using electronic signature. The FRA is process developing a database of 61803 submitted with the electronically that can be directly accessed by the inspector. We will attempt to keep the inspectors updated with the new methods of handling the F61803 as are instituted with the railroads of an FRA. The 61803 was submitted with the railroad for instance of the excessive service of the inspector decides a recommended civil penalty for this failure. A separated violation report package of 61806 must be submitted. All right, the Form 618061, violation of accidents and incident reports. The standard violation report using the reporting incident, the violation Part 225 railroad accident incident report for the failure to report the accident incident is such that the form 618061 used to failing to create the FRA 618054, X618058, and 618057. All the record keeping and reporting the violations recorded on the form 618067. The FRA recently started providing with the Class 1 railroads and Amtrak's, which are subject to the statutory mandatory 2-year interval audits within a 30-day window following the audit's closeout, meeting and preceding the additional evidence and information connection with the potential violation. When the inspector participation in the accident incidents audited with submitting their violation reports, the audited cause of the inspection must include the following statements and provide with the additional information, additional explanation of evidence appropriate. The FRA did not receive the response to propose the violation for the railroad either during the audit or the 30-day window following the audit and requested the additional time to provide with the response to the proposed violation. The FRA received the following response to provided with the violation of the railroad containing the mitigation evidence of remedial action during the audit and following the audit. If an inspector does not think of the mitigation evidence causing weight and he or she responds provided with the additional information is necessary, the FRA has received the following response to propose the violation of the railroad during the audit. Following the audit, the FRA does not believe the railroad argument has merit in the case that it provides with a sufficient decision of the evidence to support the statement. In the response to the argument, the FRA is provided with a detailed description of the follow-up investigation such as the proposed violation is still valid, and again with the provided sufficient detail and reason for the violation remains valid. If the violation failing to report the occupational illness, the violation report shall indicate whether the railroad created the FRA 6180-107 and should copy the form. The more of the violation report shall explain the exists even in light of the railroad creating the FRA 6180-107. Supportive material when the investigation potential failure to report when the violated report must contact the accident incident report office of the railroad involved with the attempt to obtain the copy of the railroad's report. The FRA reportable accident incident involved. When contacting the accident incident reporter from the railroad, the inspector should have also provided the opportunity to explain his basis on reporting or the injury. Moreover, the inspector should include this in formation violation report is important to the violation report how and when any of the documents were obtained. For the example, when violation report shall indicate the records will be directly from the railroad or a third party through a third party. Moreover, it is unclear if the railroad came into possession of certain copies records important to obtain the information statement of work witness of the reports of interval step chapter 20 copy the materials obtained with the third party on the railroad's records that will not contain sufficient information to support violation. The inspector must obtain the documentation off of the railroad possession to provide an elimination violation. Again, but the documentation should be legal. The inspector should indicate whether he or she has obtained these documents, copy of the medical records In case of an unreported injury, the employee's occupational illness, the violation reported by the company copy of the railroad medical records contain the information nature of the injury, of illness, the medical treatment the received, the medical prognosis, the medical release showed the return of the duty of the deeds, and if needed, the evidence, substantial violation, and an investigation. And again, an inspector may need to obtain medical records through the source of the railroad, not in the possession of the records. The violation is not otherwise sufficiently supported, however, the FRA's general performance to obtain a copy of the medical records, particularly with the case involved with the occupational illness. The following instructions are informed of the preparation issuance of the form FRA 61861, name of the railroad, fill the corporate name of the railroad, mailing and address of the railroad, reporting officer responsible for submitting the required accident incident reports for the FRA, Big Red Railroad Incorporated, 500 Gauther Street, Lincoln, Nebraska 32202. Enter the name of the division, service, business, direct, engine, equivalent, direct, district, region, equivalent other than the division, unreported primary, but improperly reported case on the railroad's no division, service unit, and the other appropriate designation of the not applicable. Example, Corbin. Violation report number. The enter the inspector's new substantial violation report number. Place an incident of the report in the place where the accident incident identified with the name of the geographical location, such as a car shop, departure yard, track number, the mail post number, and the general office building, including the name of the town and the state. Example, the track number 27 North Yard, Omaha, Nebraska. Into the time of the accident, incident, the event is unreported occupational idleness, and the nature of the is not applicable at the time is an initial diagnosis available. The date show the month and date and the year, November 1st, 2010, for the accident, incident, occupational illness diagnosis. The type of accident incident notice, check one of the boxes indicated with the type of the accident incident, check all the boxes, apply other box when reporting the violation requirement of the FRA guide for the prepared accident incident reports, regulations violated, identifying the section if in the paragraph of the FRA reporting rule was violated, the FRA guide if the applicable side of the page is notable, number the provision within the FRA guide preparing accident incident reports are available to this violation. The F1618096 report date and line item number of the violation in Title 49 CFR. Name of the person, enter the first name, middle initial, last name of the person who was killed or injured due to developing an occupational illness. Thomas J. O. Osborne, work on duty, employees class A. Type of the person, the time, enter the name, enter the type of the person, employee on duty, employee off duty. Occupational, if employed, if the employee is named in the NA, the state of the employee, specifically with the occupational norms. Employee is the context would include a worker on duty, the volunteer worker on the duty, contractor. Example, conductor, native, the occupational illness, injury, treatment. Describe the illness, injury, the treatment received with the person named 9A, the right shoulder sprain, continuous, right elbow, right limb brachial strain, prescription medication prescribed. Employee's occupational illness, injury, result of the check all the boxes and item that should be the reason with the report of the medical treatment. 12. The injury employed restriction of the work of the motion, describing the employee injury and the result of the restriction of the work of the motion, if not applicable, not applicable. Employee sustained 2 days of the restricted duty consisting with sitting on within the train dispatcher. 12. G. Medical release of the duty while all records and information of the case involves any of the employee injury, occupational illness. If an employee was not involved, no medical release is issued and not applicable. 25H. Remark of the medical release of the remarks are entered in the employee's medical release. Enter the if and no remarks were made of the medical release and no release was issued and not applicable. May continue with the given example. Name, title, location, physician, registered professional who provided with the medical treatment. Enter the name, title, location, physician, other registered professional provided medical treatment to the person named if no medical treatment was provided either NA. Details on how accidents occurred while who made it reportable. Enter all the details. Enable the FRA's office of chief counsel to fully understand how the accident incident is occupied with why it should be a reported violation. Reports must address the elements of the violation. Include the name and the title of the mailing address of the railroad official who was notified of the accident incident with the time of the date of the notification. The name of the title of the mailing address of the custodian of each of the document must also include the name of the inspectors and ID number. Will form out the 61896 inspection report and the signature of the inspector, type of the print of your name, who print your name, write your signature in blue ink, or sign the distinguishing the original violation report of the copy. Stand in blue ink. Date of signature, enter the date of the signature, arrangement of the Part 225 Railroad Accident Report Violation Report Package. The report should be assembled with the inspector of the following manner, complete with the FRA 618061 Violation Accident Incident Report ruling as a list of exhibits, listing and attachments complete with the FRA 618061. Original copy of the inspector signed complete with the FRA 618096. Inspection report, the original copy of the statement of the witness obtained with relation of the violation report, a copy of all the reports interviewed with a copy of the report, accident incident reports appropriate with the violation report, a copy of the medical reports pertaining with the violation report, a copy of the appropriate claims of the settlement requirements, any other supportive documentation, including documentation obtained by the third party in support of the violation of the FRA 618055 of the month showing the missing report. Form 61867, violation of operating practices regulation. This general violation report supportive material inspector consideration of the FRA 61867 operating practices regulation is used to report all the regulations with the operating practice discipline unless otherwise instructed. Instructional completion of the Form 618067. The following instruction shall be strictly filed with the issuance of the Form 618067. Subject into the full title of the regulation violated. The entry should be the same as the type of the applicable part of the subpart, or if applicable, the Code of Federal Regulations, e.g., the surface of the railroad employees part of the violation involving the monthly reports of excessive service. Example, the qualification and certification of locomotive engineering. Subpart B, the violation report, the inspector violation report number, the F618096 report, enter the number, the F1619 618096 inspection report submitted with the violation report. Railroad, the full name, corporate name of the railroad that is cited with having the violated with the operating practice, regulations of railroad initials, leaving in the section blank if the violation is against the person or other railroad, Union Pacific Railroad, UP, National Inspector, name of the inspector submitting the violation of the report, the payroll identification number of the inspector, Namaka, summary inspector 77350, enter the city of the state, GSA, geographical code of the location where the violation occurred in North Plate, NE GSA geographical code 21. The date of the violation, enter the date of the violation, the date of the violation, actual date of the act of the violated regulation, order, law, necessary. The day of the violation was discovered or the day of the inspection. Time of violation, enter the time the violation occurred if an unknown and leavable blank operational facility when the violation is against any other railroad, entering the name of the address responsible party where the violation occurred. If the violation against the railroad, enter the type of the operation with the validation or the name of the facility where the violation occurred. 10, the division, enter the name of the day, enter the name of the division, service unit, business unit, district, region, or other equivalent operating devices on which the violation occurred for the railroads, but no division, service unit, and show the appropriate designation. Enter the NA. The track, enter the track number, locomotive, the initial numbers, enter the locomotive initial numbers, and if applicable, the train designation. Enter the full train number, the train symbol, the yard number, the yard job number, or other the proper designation consistent with the being operated with the crew members and involved in the excess service of no other on-track equipment was involved with the not applicable violation of Title 49 CFR for the exact section number the federal regulation has been violated. 15, the violation description, the short description when the act permits the penalty recommendation. Railroad required a locomotive engineering to operate the train over the territory where the engineer was not qualified. The train master, Eric Crouch, ordered the locomotive engineer for the train ELPR 27 to operate the east sub route in the Big Red Valley Railway of the NCAA. Details of the violation first line should be exact code of the Federal Railroad Regulation section of the penalty schedule. The inspector is citing the non-compliance right at thorough. Description of the violation using the first person. The inspector may quote the portion of the applicable regulation. If this was assisted reader understanding the nature of the violation, the narrative should include the comments concerning the type of the corrective action taken by the railroad to correct the condition. If the section was prepared in such a manner to also provide all details specify the incident in question, inspectors will endeavor to include the complete chronological events that will be supported with includes documentation space, specific dates and the time, location, and individual scene should be included with the information contained with the report of narrative inspection. Shall refrain from the making of specific comments that are unsubstantiated represent solely with their personnel. Report the name of the title of the violation, any number of the contact by the inspector within connection with the violation, except for the complaints, unless that they have been signed by a statement, signed by a witness statement, in particular with the report of the verbal admission, the concerning with the violation made in a representative of the person committing with the violation, reporting such a conservation of the objective manner without the interjection with the opinions of representative character or diversity, ensure the rules regulations cited with the part of the story for focus on the exact rule regulation violated as the relevant explain its relevancy, ensure always included the railroad in response to the violation allegations, any of the actions from railroads performed and failed to perform, the rectified with non-compliance, and include any anticipated arguments of the office of the chief of the council can be expected from the railroad. Violations must have the data quality to be technically accurate with the refers to the basic information contained in the report. Make sure that among the other things these are accurate. The effective code reference the narrative, location, time, the date items normally populated from the inspector report, but also very important, the essential type, essentially that the inspector included the counter arguments and against the mitigation circumstances that the career will likely bring it up to settlement, address the equipment and was left in the file. The any location included defective summary notifying the provision of the FRA defectives on some circumstances, accidents in the area. 17 date report prepared is the date the report was prepared. Signature of the inspector. The inspector's name was multiplied. The inspector's name must be typed and printed, but the signature must be written in blue ink to assist in distinguishing original violation reports from the copies, etc. 19. The carrier notification enters the name, the title of the railroad official which was notified of the violation and the date of the time the notification was made. Insert chapter tab here. Chapter 4, Railroad Operating Practices. We're on part 217.